What's going on, motherfuckers? This is Sean the Don Donnelly. You have tuned into the first episode of the F Mob podcast. Just want to get a few things out of the way, right from the gate. In this podcast, I'm going to talk about a lot of stuff. Everything that interests me. Nerd shit, politics, current events, etc. So, not every episode is going to be the same. Sometimes it might be a mix. Sometimes it might be just on one thing. For the first episode, I'm just gonna talk about one thing, and that is the video game franchise Final Fantasy. Recently, I saw a video series, and they did reviews on all the Final Fantasy games, and I noticed that the reviews are about 20-25 minutes long, which I think is appropriate to review to comprehensively review a video game. And I thought, you know what? I love Final Fantasy. It's, I've grown up with it. What can I do to kind of add to the culture, right? So I thought what I would do is make one quick podcast, maybe 20 minutes or so, and I would review all the Final Fantasy games as I know them for you. So it's not going to be a complete review of all of them. It's going to be quick, short, sweet. Some of them I'm just going to leave out because I don't like them. They're not that great. I don't recommend them. So, that's how it's going to be. So I figured there's no, why waste some fucking time? I'm just going to jump right into it. Final Fantasy is it's a franchise made up of 15 games. It's got a bunch of spin-offs. Here's the games I don't recommend you play. I wouldn't play 1 through 3. I wouldn't play 11. I wouldn't play 14. And number 12 should probably be the last on your list, I think. So let's get to it. 1 through 3. These are old ass games. 30 years old. Combat system's outdated. The stories, I guess they hold up. I never really paid too much attention, but the modern games they're way better as far as story goes, as far as the battle system, gameplay, all that shit. So 1 through 3, I guess they're great. They keep remaking them and doing all this other shit and bringing them, different ports to the United States or whatever. But yeah, save your time, save your money. Next, I'm gonna lump 4, 5, and 6 all together because to me they all kind of play the same. You know what I mean? They look like 1 through 3. And that's because, NES and Super Nintendo, all the Final Fantasy games had that same feel. When they got to 7, that's when you got the, 3D environments and all that shit. But, yeah, so as far as 4, 5, and 6 are concerned, here's how I feel. If you like 6, you'll probably like 4 and 5. The best move is to try 6 first. And, in case you don't know, these games are not sequels of each other, so you can play 4, then 6, then 10. You don't have to catch up. It's not like watching like the Marvel movies or whatever. So, if you like 6, you like them all. 6 is arguably one of the best in the series. But let's start from the beginning. Number 4. Okay, great battle system, very similar to 5 and 6. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty fun. You start out as this, you have a Dark Knight. You pick up other characters, other classes. And it's your standard, Japanese RPG. You're roaming around the world. You're doing quests. You're fighting bad guys. Fighting tougher bad guys. You're moving around. At the end, you fight some bad motherfuckers trying to destroy the world. That's pretty much what it is. You're this Dark Knight. Your homeboy's like this. He's a dragoon or whatever. He turns evil. There's this other motherfucker named Golbez who's making him evil. Then when you beat Golbez, you find out there's this other motherfucker, this bad motherfucker behind him. You got to beat him at the end of the game. So, kind of predictable as far as that goes. Now, you're a Dark Knight in the game. You're the main guy. You turn into a paladin midway through the game. So you go from this, this kind of dark motherfucker to like a soldier of holiness or whatever. You know what I mean? It's kind of basic shit. It's neat first time around, but it doesn't blow my fucking mind away, right? So it's all right. It's decent. So that's how 4 kind of goes. Good gameplay, okay story, not blowing me away yet. And honestly, I feel the same about 5. Although as far as gameplay goes, they use a job swapping system as far as the battle goes. Hang on, let me collect my fucking thoughts. Okay, in the battle system, they have this jobs feature where you start off as this basic fighter, and then you switch to like a monk or like a thief or a fucking black mage, white mage. You know what I mean? You have these options, and you can all your characters can level in all these jobs, and you can swap around and customize. That part of the game is really neat. Again, the story not too crazy. You have your main character. He rolls around with 3 other people. One of them's like a runaway princess. You tend to see that shit a lot in the Final Fantasy games, like this runaway princess. Usually like a love interest. They hook up at the end or whatever. I forget how it goes for 5. That's how quick you can kind of glance over the game. Gameplay's fun. Story is still okay. And again, we're talking about Super Nintendo graphics, so you're not, I guess people would get mad and say, hey, it's a fucking classic. Yeah, I guess it is, but it's also, it's an old Super Nintendo game, so, suck my fucking dick. You know what I mean? Like, if you have a problem with that. So, 6 is great. 6, again, the battle system kind of stays consistent throughout the 3 games, 4, 5, and 6. 6, you're stuck with your classes. Every character has a class. I know later there's some options for customization, but, basically everyone, every guy kind of performs the same thing. The story's great. It takes multiple pathways, like the party's split up, and you kind of see which people do what, and, the bad guy's he's kind of epic. He's a sick motherfucker. 6 is pretty neat. I personally haven't beaten it all the way through, but it's highly acclaimed. It's one of the big games. So yeah, I would fuck with it. The story is great too. You're kind of this. 1 through 4, 5, and 6 kind of have a Star Wars feel where it's like you're rebelling against the Empire. So 6 has that, but one of the more primary characters, she's this like a half human, half spirit kind of thing. She does this kind of Captain Planet bullshit midway through the game. It's, you know what I mean? It's deep, you know what I mean? It gets serious around 6. So, I recommend fucking with it for the story. Battle system's pretty standard. That's about all I got to say about that. Now, 7, 8, and 9, you can kind of group them in the same deal too. These are the PlayStation 1 titles for Final Fantasy. 7, obviously, is epic. The battle system, it was great when I played it, but in hindsight, it's okay. There's not too much to. It doesn't blow my mind. You know what I mean? But it is fun in its own right. It doesn't matter what characters you are, because you're switching materia around. There's a materia system, and you're switching these things around to give yourself abilities and stats to your characters. So no matter if you switch your whole party out, you have to switch your materia, and there's no roles, is what I'm saying. Each character does their own thing, and then you can customize them any way you like for the most part. There's some distinctions, but that's about it. As far as story goes, story's crazy. You're this guy, you're part of this again with the resistance bullshit. You're part of a resistance group that's got to fight, some big badass corporation that's taking over the planet. Big fucking surprise, right? Same shit, 7 games deep. So you're this guy though that you have this childhood friend who's kind of, she has a crush on you, but then, you meet this new girl who's, she's like the main love interest of the game. She actually dies midway through, so the main character kind of just sticks with the friend. No one hooks up in the game, but there's like this implied love story kind of thing going on. So, I mean, it's neat. It's a good story. And then, you get your standard, badass character at the end that's just trying to fucking blow up the world, and you got to fight them to save the world. And they do that part pretty neat, because by the end, you don't know whether you save the world or not. Because no one, it just shows you hundreds of years later, and just there's one character that's still alive. So you don't know if everyone got wiped out. You don't know if, you saved yourself and the world. The world's intact. You don't know what happened to your characters, though. So that's kind of badass. So story-wise, I dig it. Combat systems, it's okay. Now, Final Fantasy VIII might be my favorite game. Just so you know, I'm big on storylines. I prefer the story over the gameplay. So, Final Fantasy VIII has this big, great love story to it, which is wrapped over this shitty battle system. You know what I mean? The system now, when they sell Final Fantasy VIII on, for PC or Steam or whatever, I mean, there's built-in cheats that help you get around like the bullshit of the combat system. That's how bad it is. They're like, it's unplayable, it's unbearable. So they help you through the battle system. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I'm not even gonna get into the battle system. It's just grindy and it's weird and fuck that. The story's great though. It's basic boy meets girl thing. The thing about it is, he ends up protecting her and saving her at the end, and you kill the big bad motherfucker at the end. That's all standard and good. The thing I like about the story is that it goes into the past of the male lead's father and the female lead's mother. And those two, when they were young, they met, they kind of fell for each other, but circumstances kind of cut their romance short. So they never end up hooking up. But they hook up with other people, they have kids, and those kids are the two main characters, and they meet, and even though the original romance couldn't be, it kind of happened through their kids. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, that's a nice story. You know what I mean? It's really, it's sweet, I think. And, I mean, besides that, the main character has this kind of rival. You know what I mean? They're both like swordsmen, kind of. And you fight him throughout the deal. You got other motherfuckers on your ass. And you fight the big bad motherfucker at the end. So, great story though. When you dig into the details. Battle system can suck my fucking dick. And that's about it. Final Fantasy IX. Solid game. Love the gameplay. Story's decent. Gameplay it's so standard, but it's so good. You start off with like a thief. You pick up a white mage, a black mage, a knight. And you get like a summoner, you get a couple other classes. And, you level up cool. You know what I mean? It's just standard shit. You level up, you gain skills along the way. You know what I mean? You learn skills, you learn abilities. It's so tidy, you know what I mean? It's got some dynamicism to it, where you can kind of customize and do shit your own way, but it's not confusing like the last two games. So it's solid, right? The story's straightforward. Thief meets princess. They bullshit the entire game. They save the world. They get married at the end. You know what I mean? It's nothing, supporting characters have these little emotional things going on. Every character's got their thing going on. You know what I mean? That's how most Final Fantasy games go, is every character's some kind of archetype. Something's popping with every guy, But that's how I feel about that. Great combat system, sublime in its simplicity, and okay story. I mean, I definitely would fuck with it. So, Final Fantasy X, combat system's great. The leveling system, it's a little funky, but you can get used to it. The story's I'd say it's pretty good too. 10 is a solid Final Fantasy title. It's probably, if I was going to get anyone into the series, I'd probably tell them to play 10 first. Because it's got, it's got good marks in every area, The battle system, everyone has their class. They can kind of deviate in a certain way, but yeah, it's basically kind of straightforward. The story is kind of cool. There's this world where there's this big calamitous motherfucker named Sin kind of roaming around, eating up villages and shit. And they have these summoners who can seal Sin away, but they gotta sacrifice their own lives to do so, and they have to go on a pilgrimage beforehand. So one of the main characters, this female summoner, her father used to be a summoner. He died defending the world. Now it's like 10 years later or whatever, and she's doing the same thing. The male lead is this guy who, it's hard to explain, but he doesn't really exist. He comes from another world, and he's just this goofy motherfucker. He shows up and kind of leads the party and helps out, you know what I mean, in this journey. There's another guy too. He actually died. He used to defend the previous summoner. He died, but his spirit still kind of takes a physical form, and he still helps out the current party. There's a lot of, Sixth Sense, M. Night Shyamalan type bullshit going on there, but so, they end up, at the end, they end up figuring out how to save Yuna, the female summoner, from dying and defeating Sin permanently at the same time. So that's kind of cool. You know what I mean? And I like how they get there. There's a lot of motherfuckers on the way. I say that a lot, don't I? There's a lot of motherfuckers on the way, and there's always that big motherfucker at the end. That's definitely true about almost every Final Fantasy. There's motherfuckers on the way, and you gotta fight that big motherfucker at the end. You know what I mean? It's kind of like life, right? Anyway, that's kind of how the story goes. Oh yeah, and the main boss is the male lead's father. So, figure that bullshit out. So, battle system's good, story's good. Definitely fuck with 10. Final Fantasy 11, throw it in the trash. Fucking dog shit. All right. Same thing with Final Fantasy 14. They're both MMORPGs. It's just one big cash grab. There's not really a great story to it. I don't fuck with it, So, yeah. 11 and 14, they're supposed to be great. I never even fuck with 11. I heard it's an amazing game. 14, I played for 2 months, dropped it. Didn't read a line of text. I couldn't follow the story whatsoever. It's all bullshit. 12 is, I recommend you play it, but it should be like the last game you play. The battle system and the gameplay is great. The story is just not there. Nothing's really going on, There's thieves and knights and wizards and fucking, I couldn't give 2 shits. You know what I mean? It's just there's no characters I'm too into. It feels like 9 all over again, just with new features, and the story's not as good. The stakes aren't there. There's your big fight at the end. There's your bullshit in the way, but there's no urgency. The planet's not going to be destroyed if you don't fucking win. You know what I mean? It's a tale of corruption. There's a lot of Game of Thrones type shit going on, but it's not that deep. So, 12, it's fine. What you should really fuck with is Final Fantasy 13, and at least its first sequel. Oh yeah. The sequel to 10, by the way, it's alright. It's kind of stupid. Don't waste your money. Back to Final Fantasy 13. Amazing game. Story off the fucking charts. I do want to say, I was big into whiskey back then, you know what I mean? So on the weekends, I'd hang out and get blasted and play 13 and beat it. And so maybe 13 just looked better than it is for me. But that's kind of what it is. 13, same deal. Same ragtag motherfuckers trying to fight the government. This time there's these like living gods that kind of protect the world, but they sometimes hurt humans, and so your main characters they're all marked for death essentially. And so what you got to do is, while your characters have this ticking time clock over their head as far as when they're gonna die to this thing, they have to save some of their loved ones from that fate already. And then they kind of grapple with the idea of, like, do we kill these god things that protect us? Because that'll make everyone's life shitty, but it'll get them out. You know what I mean? It's like some pros and cons type shit. It's like, do you bring down the system if you bring the system down, will it lead to straight anarchy or whatever? So the characters battle with that as they go through. Spoiler alert, they end up killing the thing, but everything works out fine. Actually, the ending's fucking awesome. The sequel is fucking amazing. It's really deep and emotional, like, as far as how the characters go. The second sequel, the gameplay is kind of fucking badass, but yeah, I could have done without it. But it's nice to wrap up the whole series, though. You know what I mean? Just to see how it actually ends. But once you see it, you're like, ah, yeah, because it ends up that everyone just moves into a new world, and it's kind of like the real world, like modern day Japan. You know what I mean? So it's like, oh, is that how the fucking thing ends? You know, like, I don't know. The ending, but the first two Final Fantasy 13 games, fucking amazing. 14 can lick my balls. Final Fantasy 15. Amazing story. Gameplay looks good too. I gotta tell you, I never played the game. I watched it played from start to finish. Never touched it. Just never got into it. The gameplay, I'll tell you this, man. It's you and 3 party members, and all you guys do is roll around, fuck shit up, finish quests, do shit. It's like Assassin's Creed meets Final Fantasy, you know what I mean? It's very task-oriented. It keeps you engaged, I mean, it keeps you going. You're leveling up you're leveling up your shit, but you're leveling up other shit too, and there's a lot to the gameplay and battle system. It's kind of neat, and it's live action. It's like a Kingdom Hearts game where you actually fight. You don't just stand around and, you know, most Final Fantasy games, if you don't know, are turn-based combat. So you actually brawl with this one. The story is crazy. Your main character is a prince. He's got his 3 like homies with him, like his retinue, you know. He leaves to go marry this princess, and while he's away, his kingdom gets attacked. His father dies. He becomes the king of this ruined kingdom. So now you got to rebuild your kingdom and do all sorts of other bullshit. It has a modern day aesthetic to it. So there's cars, and there's like everyone's got Wi-Fi on their phones. You know what I mean? Like it feels like today, but it also feels medieval. It's really weird. The princess ends up dying midway through the game while she's trying to help dude out. Dude unleashes all these sick ass fucking powers and weapons and shit. It's pretty badass. And also he dies at the end. Not to spoil the fucking game for you if you were gonna play it. If you were gonna play it, you probably shouldn't be fucking listening to that. But you kill the bad guy at the end, and there's this weird. Even though everyone's dead, it's a happy ending, because there's like a picture. Like I guess the main character and the princess are kind of like in heaven, kind of enjoying each other's company, because there's like a picture at the end of them just kind of sitting on the throne together. I don't know how to square it. It makes you feel happy, but what actually happened was like this world was cast into darkness, and then the king died. You know, the king dies in the beginning. You become the king, and then you die. You know what I mean? It's funky, but yeah, it's a pretty deep game. I dig it. So definitely fuck with 15. That's almost it. I'm gonna give you a quick review on Final Fantasy Tactics, even though it's not an official Final Fantasy game. I think it deserves it. Gameplay's great. Stories is great. Gameplay feels like Final Fantasy V. There's a job system. You know what I mean? It's fully customizable. All these characters and monsters. There's a whole lot of shit you can do. The fights they take place like a faster paced Dungeons and Dragons fight. So that's cool too. Can't say enough about the battle system. It keeps you engaged forever. Although the battles, it's kind of long. It's not as fast paced as like Final Fantasy 13, but the story is crazy. The story is bona fide. Game of Thrones, backstab, betrayal. Fucking everyone's trying to figure out who's gonna sit on the throne. You know what I mean? It's real deep shit. And they got this mystical, these 12 beasts of the Zodiac kind of thing. So like while there's real shit going down, there's also this order of fucking beasts you have to fight. There's a lot to it. But Yeah, I would if I were you, I'd definitely fuck with that one too. So we're about 25 minutes. So think I'm gonna get the fuck out of here. I told you what I had to tell you. Final Fantasy. You know, now if you don't know about it, now you know a little bit about it. Maybe you want to fuck with it. If not, whatever. You can hold your own if a fucking nerd starts talking about it. So yeah, that's it, man. Next podcast, I'm gonna get off the nerd shit, talk about something else. I do appreciate you tuning in and listening. Links are in the description. Hit me up, shoot me an email, tell me I suck, whatever you want to, you know what I mean? Whatever you want to do. And just stay tuned and, I'll start putting some other shit out for you. Alright, motherfuckers.